Stop! My voice tore through the afternoon quiet, raw with fury, a scream that cut through the sharp thud of a sledgehammer. I sprinted across the lawn, heart hammering, legs pumping. A crew of men froze mid-swing, dwarfed by the skeletal frame of a massive white tent they were raising, right over my prized tomatoes. At the edge of the chaos, perfectly composed in silk, stood Karen, directing, commanding. An invader queen on stolen ground. "This is private property!" I yelled, skidding to a halt. "Get this tent down! Get off my land! Now!" Karen turned slowly, annoyance flickered, then a condescending smile. "Oh, spare me the drama," she drawled, voice smooth, dismissive. "It's just for the rehearsal dinner. It's one afternoon. The contract is paid." She waved a hand towards the foreman, clipboard in hand, eyes darting. "My contract," she stated, her voice sharp, possessive. "Your contract is a lie," I fired back, stepping closer. "You forged a deed. You listed my home for sale without permission. You sent trespassers here." My voice trembled, but not with fear. "Get this tent down, get your crew, and get out." Karen laughed, a short, brittle sound. "Don't be ridiculous. This property is perfect for Emily's wedding. It's happening. You're making this difficult." "Difficult?" I accused, the word a bitter taste. "You call invading my home difficult? You're a criminal." I pulled out my phone, camera already open. "And I'm recording this invasion, every criminal act." Her smile vanished. Pure rage distorted her face. "You can't film me," she shrieked, lunging forward, hand extended, aiming for the phone. "Let's rewind." "Ma'am," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, as if confessing a state secret. "Got a 911 call this morning, apparently a high-priority emergency. The complaint is about your property." I waited, the damp morning air suddenly feeling frigid against my skin, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. He sighed, a deep, chest-rattling sound unique to small-town law enforcement grappling with peak suburban absurdity. Seems, Mrs. Winters from Northwood called us," he finally managed, his gaze fixed somewhere over my shoulder, unable to meet my eyes directly. Because you refused to sell her your farmhouse for her daughter's wedding. She reported it as a community emergency and a public nuisance." I stared at him, mouth slightly agape. A single sharp, disbelieving snort escaped me. "Hayes, are you actually kidding me right now? This is some kind of elaborate early morning prank, isn't it? A 911 call because I won't sell my house?" He met my eyes then, and the sheer, weary sincerity there extinguished any flicker of amusement. "Wish I was, ma'am. She's, insistent. Said you were being non-compliant with a community vision and obstructing progress." Karen offered a wave now, a performatively warm gesture that implied a deep shared history of confidences and cooperation, not a reality of forced, awkward interactions. Then, with the unshakable confidence of someone who genuinely believed the physical laws of the universe bent to accommodate her desires, she strode forward, bypassing Sheriff Hayes and focusing her attention solely on me and my property. She stopped dramatically, pivoted on the gravel, and pointed a perfectly manicured finger, tipped in a pale, unobtrusive polish, directly at my porch. "That's precisely where the floral arch will go," she announced, her voice clear and carrying, as if addressing a crowd of wedding planners, not a law enforcement officer investigating a bizarre 911 call based on a real estate dispute. "And the seating will extend across the front lawn here. Isn't the morning light just dreamy for the pre-ceremony photos in this location? It's simply perfect." I stared at her, my jaw tightening with disbelief and rising anger. "Are you insane, Karen? Have you actually lost your mind? Or did you just borrow someone else's particularly broken one for the day?" She tilted her head back and let out a laugh. It was not a sound of genuine mirth, but a sharp, brittle titter, like tiny pieces of ice shattering on a cold floor. "Oh, you're always so dramatic," she simpered, though her eyes remained hard and cold, assessing my reaction with a detached air. "It's a simple request. For a beautiful event." She reached into her oversized designer tote bag and produced a folder. This was no casual collection of papers. It was thick, heavy, bound in a material that suggested immense importance. As she opened it, I saw laminated pages, glossy photographs of my house, overlaid with bright, digitally rendered editions. There were detailed diagrams, flowcharts, a full-scale wedding layout superimposed onto an aerial view of my entire property. It wasn't just the porch she was eyeing. The entire sprawling field behind my ancient, weathered barn, land where I grazed my sheep and grew hay, was labeled ceremony lawn, complete with carefully sketched-in rows of seating, a designated spot for a string quartet, and even a place for a dove release. My beloved chicken coop, a slightly ramshackle but functional structure housing my flock of productive, opinionated hens, was clearly marked guest parking, annotated with notes about optimizing vehicle flow and shuttle drop-offs. She'd even designated a spot near my largest oak tree for a signature cocktail bar and a photo booth, completely ignoring my well and septic system locations. She held up a page from the folder, pointing to a section highlighted in bright pink. "And as president of the Northwood HOA," she announced, her voice gaining an imperious, demanding tone, addressing Sheriff Hayes again, "I am formally invoking Community Code 47A, which expressly allows for the temporary reassignment of non-compliant private spaces for communal benefit and aesthetic improvement. This property, in its current state, is frankly an eyesore compared to the surrounding community standards." Sheriff Hayes muttered under his breath, low enough only for me to hear, his face a picture of utter exasperation. "Karen, for the 10th time, that is not a real law. The Northwood HOA has no jurisdiction here. And this is not a community space or non-compliant. It's her private home." "Look," she said, gesturing broadly with her hand, encompassing my fields, my barn, my entire home. "You're just one person. It's not like you're even using all this space effectively. I mean, honestly, look at this place." She gestured dismissively at the farmhouse itself, its age showing proudly in the weathered wood, the slightly uneven lines, the peeling paint that I was slowly working to restore. "It's rustic. A little cleaning up, some professional landscaping, maybe power washing the porch, and it would be absolutely magical. Perfect for Emily and Tyler's special day. Think of the photos. It's going to be featured in Modern Bride. You could be a part of that." "It's theft," I roared, the word echoing in the morning air. "You called the police because I won't sell you my home. That's not a community emergency, that's a criminal act." Sheriff Hayes, looking utterly defeated, stepped forward, trying to regain control of the situation. "Karen, ma'am, this is escalating. We need to calm down. This is a civil matter." "It became criminal the moment she called 911 with a fraudulent complaint and presented fake legal authority," I snapped back, not at Hayes, but at Karen, my eyes locked on hers. "And it became criminal the moment she started talking about reassignment of my private property." Karen, seeing that her attempt to use the police as her personal real estate agents was failing, her authority challenged, her community code, exposed as fake, shifted tactics, her face hardened. "Fine," she said, her voice dropping, losing the syrupy sweetness, gaining a razor edge. "If you won't be reasonable, there are other ways. This wedding is happening. On this property. One way or another." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. A declaration of war. I stood my ground, meeting her gaze, my own fury hardening into cold resolve. "Bring it, Karen," I said, my voice low and steady. "You want a fight? You just found one." By the time the police cars finally pulled away, their sirens silent, leaving only the scent of exhaust and the lingering feeling of violation hanging in the air, Karen had stapled something to my front gate. It wasn't just stuck. It was stapled multiple times with a heavy-duty stapler, tearing the paint slightly as I pulled it off. It was a flyer, printed in aggressive orange ink. Northwood Community Celebration Planning Meeting. And below it, in bold, undeniable letters, my address. It was a clear, public act of defiance, an attempt to assert control over my space by inviting others onto it. I ripped it off the gate as if it were crawling with spiders, tearing it into tiny pieces, letting them fall like confetti onto the gravel driveway. I stood in my yard, the morning sun warm on my face, and felt a cold fury settle deep in my gut. Was this real? Was she actually trying to organize a large community event on my private property, using a fake community meeting notice simply because I had refused her? Surely there were easier, less insane, and less legally questionable ways to find a wedding venue than attempting to commandeer a stranger's private home via a fraudulent 911 call and imaginary community mandates. But no, this wasn't about logic. It was about control. Absolute, unwavering, delusional control. And unfortunately for Karen, I had no intention of surrendering mine. Determined to expose her tyranny in her own territory, I attended the next Northwood HOA meeting. The clubhouse was a monument to beige conformity and whispered judgments. I walked in, acutely aware of being an outsider in my flannel amidst the pastels. Karen, radiating false warmth, spotted me and practically preened. During her presentation, she displayed posters of my house labeled Future Ceremony Platform and Proposed Community Event Space, a key strategic acquisition. She described my home as a potential partner property that would be integrated into the Northwood Master Plan, referring to me only as the current occupant. I stood up, interrupted her carefully orchestrated presentation, and introduced myself as the actual legal owner. I declared my property unequivocally off-limits for sale, rent, or her community vision, and exposed her actions, the police call, the trespassers, the flyers, the fraudulent presentation, as illegal harassment and trespass. The room had erupted in a stunned silence, then a storm of whispers. The wedding plans became uncertain. Later, a woman named Sarah, a former HOA member, confided Karen had a history. She'd driven a farmer named Jedediah out of his home years ago with similar tactics, using a fake charity picnic on his land as a pretext to try and rezone his property for commercial use, harassing him relentlessly until he sold for a pittance just to escape. It confirmed my fear. This was a predatory pattern. Undeterred by my public confrontation, Karen simply doubled down. She filed a formal preview party at the farmhouse, flyer on my mailbox, inviting people to see the wedding vision on my property. Then she took her fraud online and nationwide. She listed my house for sale and for short-term rental as a wedding venue on multiple websites and through a local realtor, using wildly photoshopped images and claiming I was the venue coordinator or that she had authority to rent it. People started arriving for these non-existent open houses, driving up my driveway despite the massive, newly reinforced private property. No trespassing. Signs I'd posted at the gate, wandering my yard, taking photos, clearly confused but directed here by Karen's fraudulent listings. It was a tangible, relentless invasion of my privacy and space, orchestrated by her lies. The rental truck's arrival today, the stake hammered into my garden, the tent rising, this was the most direct physical manifestation of her invasion yet. And it was based on further criminality. The driver, confused by my reaction, had shown me his delivery slip, confirming my address, my name, signed off by Karen Winters. He'd mentioned she'd sent the rental company a copy of the deed to confirm venue ownership. My lawyer, Ms. Peterson, confirmed what I suspected. It was a forged copy of my deed, crudely done, but used by Karen to secure a contract for thousands of dollars of equipment under false pretenses. Criminal felony fraud, Ms. Peterson had declared, her voice hard. This changes everything. We have her dead to rights on multiple serious charges now. Karen's desperation escalated further. A construction crew appeared next, hired by Karen to widen my front gate for easier vendor access for the impending event. I stood my ground, confronting them forcefully, my voice vibrating with fury. Touch one nail on my gate, disturb one stone on my property, and I sue everyone involved. I had detailed their clients' fraudulent activities and the police reports. My clear threat and legal backing, combined with their own unease, sent them away, though the dust they kicked up felt like a final, petty act of defiance. The harassment became intensely personal and psychological. Someone spray-painted a single word, "so," on my new outer fence, a defiant dismissal of my boundaries, a message that my resistance was meaningless. I knew it was Karen, or someone acting on her behalf. I repainted the fence, added security lights. An anonymous email arrived with a chilling message. "You could really make something beautiful out of that place. It has so much potential. Why not let it be loved and shared?" Attached was a professionally done, deeply unsettling photoshopped image of a perfect wedding ceremony set up directly on my lawn. It felt like a twisted attempt to break me down, to make me see her vision and give in. I sent it to Ms. Peterson, then pinned it to my fridge, a stark reminder that some people believe their desire overrides another's consent and ownership. Back in the present moment, facing the tent crew and Karen's chilling composure amidst the chaos she'd created on my property, the full weight of her relentless, unhinged campaign crashed down. She wasn't just pushy, she was a criminal attempting to steal my home through escalating acts of fraud, trespass, and intimidation. "You forged a deed, Karen!" I yelled again, holding up my phone, recording her every move. "You gave this rental company a fake deed to my property. That's a felony. You are criminally trespassing and destroying my property. You need to stop." Karen's mask of serene control shattered completely. Her face contorted with pure, unadulterated rage. "You can't film me!" she shrieked, lunging forward, hand raised, fingers splayed, attempting to physically swat the phone from my grip to silence my documentation. I braced myself, held the phone steady, capturing her face, her arms swinging towards me, the clear moment of attempted physical assault on camera. Just then, the sirens, real this time, wailed in the distance, growing rapidly closer. Multiple squad cars, lights flashing, pulled into the driveway, tires skidding slightly on the gravel. Sheriff Hayes was not among the first officers out, but his response had been swift. Officers fanned out, assessing the scene, the massive tent framework, the bewildered workers, Karen's enraged face, my phone still recording. A deputy approached Karen, his voice calm, deadly serious, cutting through her rising hysteria. "Mrs. Winters, you are under arrest. Forgery, criminal trespass, property damage, and assault based on documented evidence and witnessed actions." Karen froze for a split second, then erupted in a torrent of screams. "Arrest? You can't arrest me! This is my daughter's rehearsal. This is illegal. She's ruining everything," she ranted as deputies calmly but firmly took her arms, leading her away towards a patrol car. Other officers instructed the tent crew to immediately cease all work and begin dismantling the setup, explaining they were on private property based on a fraudulent booking and were participating in a crime. The workers, visibly relieved to be getting out of the volatile situation, dismantled the tent and loaded it back onto the truck with surprising speed. Karen watched from the back of the patrol car, screaming my name, screaming about injustice, her elaborate vision of a perfect rehearsal collapsing into a scene of police activity, public humiliation, and looming felony charges. But even her arrest wasn't the absolute end of the conflict. The video I'd captured and posted, Northwood HOA president attempts to stage wedding rehearsal and physically assaults homeowner on private property, went stratospherically viral, making national and international news. Karen became a symbol of toxic entitlement and the dangers of unchecked privilege. She gave tearful interviews from jail, claiming I had orchestrated everything, staged the assault, doctored the footage, and was a cruel person attacking her family's special day. But her performance rang hollow against the irrefutable evidence. The internet dug deeper into her past, confirming Sarah Jenkins's story about Farmer Jedediah and uncovering other instances of her bullying, manipulation, and abuse of power within the HOA. The Northwood HOA board, facing immense public scrutiny and potential legal repercussions, held an emergency meeting. Karen was formally removed from all official positions and publicly censured. The HOA released a terse, apologetic statement confirming her removal and reiterating that her actions were personal and under active criminal investigation, clearly trying to distance themselves from the fallout. The legal process ground forward. Sarah Jenkins, emboldened by the public outrage and Karen's arrest, came forward publicly, providing documents and testifying about Karen's long-standing whispered plans to acquire properties near the edge of the existing HOA boundaries. Sarah revealed that Karen intended to create a larger community center and event complex for Northwood, expanding its influence, and that she had specifically discussed targeting my farmhouse, considering it prime for her plans. Sarah provided the scanned note from an old planning meeting, clearly stating the predatory intent. Acquire farmhouse before summer. Wedding as anchor event. It proved the wedding was merely a planned tactic in a larger predatory scheme to take my land. My lawyer also confirmed the county prosecutor was treating Karen's failed attempt to file a public access easement across my backyard as a serious attempt at land theft via fraudulent legal maneuvering. The supposed day of the wedding rehearsal arrived. Karen, in a final act of delusional defiance, released on bail but clearly unraveling, tried to move the rehearsal dinner to the Northwood clubhouse. She invited guests and vendors, claiming a last-minute venue change. But a tip from a now cooperative HOA member alerted Sheriff Hayes. He arrived at the clubhouse, where a small, chaotic gathering was attempting to start amidst confusion and rumors, and shut it down, arresting Karen on the spot again when she tried to resist and claimed she had permission. Months of legal wrangling followed. The criminal case built against Karen was overwhelming. Facing undeniable proof of forgery, multiple trespasses, fraud, property damage, the video of her assault, and documentation of her attempts to file fraudulent easements and contracts, she eventually took a plea deal to avoid a lengthy prison sentence, pleading guilty to several felony charges, including fraud and attempted grand larceny of property. She received a suspended sentence, significant fines, mandated psychological counseling, and a permanent, ironclad restraining order preventing her from ever contacting me or coming near my property again. Meanwhile, Karen's baseless, retaliatory civil lawsuit against me for defamation and obstruction was summarily dismissed by the judge. It was a final, pathetic attempt to inflict misery, but it failed. Walking out of the courthouse after the civil case dismissal, the sunlight felt brighter. The air tasted sweeter than it had in a long time. It had been a long, brutal fight, fought on many fronts, on my land, in the sterile halls of county offices, online in the court of public opinion, and eventually through the formal legal system. Karen had thrown everything she had at me: entitlement, manipulation, fraud, intimidation, legal warfare, attempted physical assault, and psychological attacks. She had turned my life upside down, caused immense stress, damaged my property, and forced me to fight for something that should never have been in question. The cost had been high in terms of time, money, and peace of mind.